qui si mette...
Ovunque,
ovunque.
Sì.
Potete prendere posto dove volete, perché dopo poi i membri non ufficiali delle delegazioni devono lasciare la sala, quindi temporaneamente potete occupare qualsiasi posto. Sì. Marcello? Marcello? Marcello, in inglese o in italiano?
In inglese, sì.
I think we have to speak English. There is no interpretation for this segment. Let me say that the Italian Development Cooperation took the opportunity of the contact group meeting to present a small but very significant project which we have promoted in cooperation with l'Università Roma III of Rome, and in particular with Professor Puglielli, who is a name well known to the Somali community, both in Italy and in Somalia itself. And we thought that this would be a very appropriate occasion to present a dictionary of the Somali language, which in our view also represents a very useful tool to unify Somalia and to stress the meaning of the Somali identity. I will not indulge in explaining to you the details of the dictionary and the thrust that has promoted this initiative, because I will leave it to Professor Puglielli itself. But let me say that the Italian Development Corporation is very proud of this initiative, and we do want to thank Roma III, and in particular Mrs. Puglielli, and all those who have contributed to the realization of this dictionary, because we think that through education, through culture, we can also provide a very useful tool for the peace process. I also take this occasion to mention to you that in the bilateral meeting which Minister Terzi had with the Somali delegation a few minutes ago, he also mentioned another small but equally important project which we will finance shortly. And it is a project also relating to education and training in the area of agriculture and health, which will contribute to the training of young Somalis via satellite or internet, with the collaboration of our national TV RAI. And it will be realized in Italian with Somali subtitles. And in this way, we will achieve, hopefully, not only the training of those who will attend the courses, but we will also contribute to the spreading of the Italian language, which, with the long-standing tradition of relations which we have with Somalia, in our view, is also a big asset. So, Mrs. Puglielli, in thanking you enormously for this beautiful surprise which we have given to the Somali delegation today, I will give you the floor.
Thank you very much. And before I say just a few words about the dictionary, I think that the other person that should be mentioned is Professor Abdallah Omar Mansour, sitting here next to me, who is co-editor of the dictionary. Many people have been involved. You'll find the list. It would take me some time to read them all. This work started many years ago, before the beginning of the Civil War, and as you can imagine, has taken quite a bit of work, and has been going on for such a long time, also because all of us were doing it not on a side because it was not important for us, but because it wasn't, let's say, put on top of our priorities by the context. Let's put it this way. Now, the Qaamuuska is finally here. It has about 50,000 words, and I should also mention that the starting point for this, as all our two dictionaries that we published in 85 and 98, the Somali-Italian Dictionary and the Italian-Somali Dictionary, are based at the beginning on Yassine Osman Kenadi's dictionary, which was the first one published in 75. That dictionary had 15,000 words. It was the work of one person who did it immediately after the writing of Somali in 72, and it's a milestone in Somali lexicography. Now our work follows that tradition, and it's not the final point, I think. Again, it's a very important step, but work on Somali language and Somali lexicography should go on, of course. So I will only say a few words in respect to emphasize some actual cultural points of the presence of this dictionary, and then something else. So first point, the CAS is a fundamental instrument towards the standardization and normalization of Somali language that, as you all know, was transcribed only 40 years ago. As a matter of fact, this year is the 40th anniversary, so to say. And therefore, the language still maintains a high degree of variability. And we registered some of it in our dictionary because this also is a choice. Second point gives to this language the status of any official national language. The only scientifically sound monolingual dictionary existing up till now, as I mentioned before, is Yassine Osman Kenadi Dictionary, and the CAS is a new step for Somali lexicography. Its existence makes Somali one of the few African languages equipped with this type of instruments of primary importance for any serious educational program. And this dictionary should not be considered an end, as I said before, but a beginning. And finally, this dictionary, together with all the other descriptive works that have been produced over the years, 15 volumes of Somali studies published, and a great number of articles produced by Italian researchers as well as others, constitute resources that cannot be ignored in future language policies in Somalia. This is a very important point, and this leads us to a very short reflection on language policy, and therefore the political relevance of this type of tools. A common language is a necessary prerequisite for any nation, independent from its political system, since a common language is a fundamental instrument of identity. And for a language to be able to serve for this aim, it is necessary to have all the tools and instruments needed. Somali, the variety that has been chosen since 1940 as the common language, 40 years after it's been written, begins to have the necessary tools to respond adequately to the function of a national language. And we should never forget that a common language is a strong instrument for unity and national identity. If the long period of struggle in Somalia should result in going back in respect to the choice of this variety of Somali as a national language, we believe this would be a real damage for the country. To conclude, I would like to emphasize the choice we have done as far as our publication of the Qaamuuska is concerned. You see here a volume, but in fact, this dictionary is the first publication of Roma 3 e-press, Roma 3 Press, which is that has been just founded at my university, and it's a e-press, as the name of the press itself says, which means that the dictionary will be on the web, it's free for distribution and can be downloaded anywhere, and this decision was made mainly for Somalia, of course, because if we print books and we have to send them there, it's much more difficult. So Somalis in Somalia can download the dictionary directly from the web. And for people who are interested, of course, there is also a system to order a copy of the book via a publisher, okay, as it's normally done nowadays on the web. I think that this has been a particular choice, and it was the right choice as far as a Somali dictionary and a dictionary for Somalia is concerned. I stop here, and I'd like to give now the word to our three guests that must be somewhere around there. I'll call them just by their short name, not the full names, Idaja, Afra, and Aden. I don't know in which order they will speak, but I'm grateful to them to take such a long trip from Nairobi, from Djibouti, to come over for this event. This tells us that it is relevant for Somali people. Thank you.
If you allow. Thank you, Mrs. Puglielli. If you allow me, before giving the floor to our counterparts essential for the preparation and publication of the dictionary, allow me to mention once again the cooperation that the Italian Development Corporation has with Università Roma Tre, and in particular with the Somali Studies Center, which will be essential also for the other project I referred to before, and which has just been announced to the Prime Minister by Minister Terzi, relating to the training courses, for which Dr. Malesani will play quite an important role. So I will ask him very, very briefly to say a few words, and then, of course, I'll be pleased to give the floor to our Somali guest.
Only 2 minutes. Professor Puglielli spoke about the Italian cooperation for the University of Somalia, that in the 1975 to 1990 was the big project in Italian cooperation, and formed a lot of doctors in medicine, in veterinary, agriculture, and engineering. Now, we know that the problem is very difficult, the situation in Somalia, and we hope in the future to have more possibilities and opportunities to cooperate. But we proposed a project that the Minister Terzi today finally communicated to officially to organize a television, a website in which we produce projects in educational field, in veterinary, in agriculture, and in medicine. That is one project that we are going with the Italian RAI, and with the support of Department of Somali Studies. That is one project that from tomorrow we begin to work for the success of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I will give the floor to Professor Aden Hassan Aden from the University of Djibouti. As I said before, one of the big ambitions that the Italian Development Corporation has is to revitalize the cultural life of Somalia. And we thought that this occasion of the contact group was an appropriate one to invite also some intellectual people representing the Somali community all over the world. So I'm very pleased to give the floor to Mr. Aden Hassan Aden, but before that I understand Professor Puglielli would like to take the floor.
Well, I just want to mention, because after our Somali friends, I think that we will close with this presentation, but I think that it should be mentioned on this occasion, another project that has just started at the Center of Somali Studies of Roma Tre University, under the auspices again of the cooperation of the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs, a project that we presented for the creation of a Somali archive, which will be on the net again, where it is my intention to have all the materials that we collected over the years in Somalia. Most of them are not published materials, but I think that they are, again, a piece of history of Somalia, some of the things we have. For example, conversation among the elders in the Academy of Arts and Sciences in Mogadishu about topics about cultural heritage and things like that, as well as published materials. This will constitute, again, an archive that will be available to Somalia and to Somalis. Thank you. And now I would like to have our guests say something about.
As the president of Somali Speaking Writers Association, I'm very delighted and thankful for being invited in this event. First of all, I would like to congratulate my honorable colleagues, Madam Anarita and Mr. Abdullah Umar Mansour, for their efforts and for their achievements. Secondly, on behalf of my my friends and Somali Speaking Writers Association, I would like to thank the government of Italy, especially its Ministry for Foreign Affairs and the University of Roma for their endless support for Somali intellectuals and for their invitation to enabling us live in this very exciting moment. The Somali language is the language spoken by all Somali in the Horn of Africa, Somalia, Djibouti, Kenya, and Ethiopia. This language had remained over the centuries as a spoken language until 1972, when a new script, Latin, was officially introduced by the government of the Republic of Somalia at that time. Somali then became the official language and the official medium of instruction and government administration in Somalia in the after 1970s. At that time, a massive literacy and lexical development campaign were undertaken, and a significant body of written literature in Somali also came out in that period. However, with the outbreak of the civil war in Somalia in 1991 and the subsequent collapse of the state, most of members of the cultural and literary community had to flee the civil war and scatter all over the world. Writing and other literary activities were brought to halt, and the use of the Somali language as a medium of instruction and administration in Somalia has been discontinued. As a replacement, foreign languages, especially Arabic and English, are now in use, where the Somali language and its literature were increasingly being marginalized. In the other countries in the region with Somali-speaking population, Somali as a written medium has always been extremely marginalized. In response to such a tragic situation where the standard Somali and its written literature are under serious threat an outcry is expressed by the government of Djibouti, urging those concerned to do something about salvaging and safeguarding such an endangered language and its literature. The Somali-speaking Writers Association, Somali-speaking pen, which is based in Djibouti, organized every year a week-long conference and cultural festival in Djibouti, Mogadishu, Hargeisa, and Jigjiga, and elsewhere in diaspora in celebration for the International Mother Language Day, 21st February, proclaimed by UNESCO. This initiative was put forward by the Somali-speaking pen in a high-profile event of national level inaugurated by the President of Djibouti, Ismail Omar Guelleh, in 2003. In light of this, the Somali-speaking pen has been launching ambitious programs of activities from that period till today. This year, 2012, the Somali-speaking pen is celebrating with you for 14th anniversary for writing Somali in Latin script. The celebration started from Mogadishu in last March and will continue till the end of this year. The celebration for the written Somali will conclude next December in Djibouti in a huge cultural festival represented by all Somali speaking in the region of the Horn of Africa. In this occasion, another Somali monolingual dictionary will be launched. This project, I mean the dictionary, is funded by the President of Djibouti, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, and I am very delighted and honored to invite those who are concerned in Somali language and its literature. Finally, I would like to say to my colleague, you really did a big job. Congratulations. Thank you.
I give now the floor to Professor Mohamed Dahir Afra. Where is he?
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event for offering the opportunity to be with you here today and to say a few words about this worthy occasion, the occasion of launching this distinct dictionary in the context of the meeting of the International Contact Group on Somalia. As an active member of the Somali cultural community and as one of the extensive users and promoters of this language, I would like to emphasize and stress the gratitude expressed already by the previous speaker, my colleague Adan Hassan, our gratitude to the organizers, to those who have undertaken this challenging project, to the efforts, tireless efforts made by people like Professor Narita Puglielli, the Centro Studi Somali, and Università Roma Tre, for the efforts they have been making over the years, which we have been following to support the study and the development of the Somali language. There's no doubt that this language deserves and needs this kind of support. It does deserve it for a number of reasons. One of which is that this language is considered as many by one of the important languages in Africa. It's considered so by many concerned parties, including the African Union, and it's one of its organs, the Academy of African Languages, ACALAN, who recently selected the Somali language as one of 12 African languages selected to be promoted and developed by the African Union. These languages are referred to as vehicular cross-border languages. And they are selected based on a number of criteria, including the extent of their use in various disciplines, such as in education, communication, and administration. And also the number of the countries these languages are spoken, and the number of people speaking or using these languages. So the Somali language was one of these languages. And as part of this initiative, a regional commission has been formed for the development and the safeguarding of the Somali language under the auspices of the African Union. And it's relevant that some of the members of that commission are here today, including Professor Abdallah Mansour, there, my colleague Aden Hassan, who has just spoken, and myself. And we would like to say that we are delighted to witness today, as members of that commission, to witness the launch of this dictionary, which we believe will be useful for the work of our commission. One of the other reasons why ACALAN has honored the Somali language is the fact that it's a language spoken by so many people, and because it is a language which carries a wealth of heritage, a unique heritage, which constitutes an essential part of the human knowledge. On the other hand, however, the Somali language is endangered due to the impact of the devastating civil war and anarchy in Somalia for decades. One of the resultant of this problem is that the embryonic writing system for the Somali language and the development of the study of the language have suffered a serious setback. Somali was traditionally maintained as a spoken language, but has only recently been written, as I've already mentioned by the previous speakers. Here, I would like to once again highlight the occasion mentioned by Aden the ongoing preparations to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the decision to officially introduce the Somali orthography in 1972. We believe in these structures concerned with the Somali language, such as the Somali Language Commission and the Somali Speaking Pen, mentioned by Aden, the work of which I am also involved as a founder and honorary president. We are making these efforts to celebrate this occasion because of the significance of writing for the development and survival of the Somali language. And I'm worried that I'm running out of time. So I would like to conclude by saying that I am delighted that the Prime Minister of Somalia, Dr. Abdiweli Ali Gas, is here with us today, as well as other Somali leaders and others concerned with Somalia. And I would like to take this opportunity to urge them all to support and take an active part in the celebration for this occasion, and more importantly, to make it remind us that we must, the development and safeguarding of this language and its literature and culture must be one of the priorities in the Somalia reconstruction programs that have been planned because of the importance of language, literature, and culture, not only on their own right, but also as tools and a key for the development in other sectors, including politics, economics, security, human rights, and everything as mentioned. Thank you, and many congratulations once again to Professor Pulieli and Professor Abdullah Mansour, who has contributed a lot also to this dictionary, and thanks for your invitation.
Thank you. We are running short of time. The meeting has to resume, so I will ask the courtesy to Professor Ahmed Farah Ali Ajaja to be very, very short, and I apologize for that. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here today in this eternal city of Rome, and glad to witness also the launch of this massive and worthwhile dictionary, written and co-authored by Professoressa Anarita Pulieli and Abdullah Mansour. It's really a milestone in the once flourishing relations between Italy and its ex-colony, Somalia. Today, maybe because of the tragic events and situation in Somalia, these relations between the two nations are not as they used to be or ought to be. Because as a young man living in Mogadishu in the 60s and 70s, I still remember the Italian being the language spoken by the urban educated Somalis all over. Still remember Italian being the language of all movie houses in Mogadishu and elsewhere in the country. Still remember the vibrant cultural activities organized on weekly basis by Centro Culturale Italiano in Mogadishu. Still remember the Italian being the only language used in the transmission of daily news by the state-owned radio in Mogadishu, and for the benefit of the sizable Italian community in the capital city and its environs. I also remember with admiration the young Italian scholars from various universities and institutions who were sent to my country to teach at the Somali University. Professor Annarita was one. George Banti was one also. They are no young any longer, but they used to be young. And I thank you very much, Professor Annarita Buleli, because she is still in the business of promoting the Somali language, while all the Somalis are neglectful of their language. That is, I must thank her for that. Let me digress a little bit and talk politics. I am not in a position really to point out the political and strategic priorities in Africa of Italy. But I can say, when we Somalis of my age see the British and the French help solve the problems of their ex-colonies like Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast, we have every right to ask ourselves, where is Italy? And this is the only thing I want to mention. And lastly, I wanted to thank again Professor Buleli and Abdullah Mansour for this massive and worthwhile dictionary, which will help the Somalis. Thank you very much, and my remarks, I hope, will not cause any diplomatic rift between me and Italy. Thank you very much.
I will no longer thank Mrs. Puglielli because she had too many thanks today. I thank all of you for being present at this meeting. I will also ask you, because really we are running short of time, before leaving the room, to give your badges back to my colleagues, and all those who are not official members of the delegations are kindly invited to leave the room, because we'll be very severe. The following meeting will be at closed doors. Very, very shortly.
Only 2 minutes. I want to thank the authors of this dictionary, because I am from Ethiopia, and 5 million of our population speaks Somali language. Not only that, it is now the official language of the Somali region, and also the media of instruction in the Somali region schools. So this dictionary will be a great help to the use of the Somali-speaking Ethiopians. So I hope you will send some copies of the dictionary so that the embassy could transmit this dictionary to the schools in the Somali region. Thank you very much.
We'll follow your advice, and please, all those who are not members of the official delegation have to leave the room. Thank you.